This is a deeper listen from KEXP, where we usually talk with musicians about the thoughts and experiences that shape their music. But today, we're doing something a little different. Today, KEXP DJs Evie Stokes, Larry Mizell Jr. and I are going to break down the top 5 most played albums on KEXP in 2025. But before we do that, we share our personal favorite albums of the year, starting with Evie.
So my favorite album of the year, we're going to talk about in just a little bit. So we'll leave that for a second. But another record that I listened to a ton of this year was an album from an artist called Jelly Ha Ha. She put out this record Switcheroo this year, and it is so fun. It's so much fun, great dance music. It's odd. It's all the things that I love in music, basically combined. And she's super fun to watch perform and listen to. And I think she really loves a lot of the same music that I do. Like Bjork is one of her biggest influences. So yeah, Jelly Ha Ha's Switcheroo, one of my favorites of the year, if not almost to the top. But I say this every year. I don't like to rate people's art, so I just talk about how much I love it.
How enlightened and progressive. Also, I love that Jelly Ha Ha record. So good. I watched 1 million live performances on YouTube, and it looks like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. It is. Have you listened to the whole thing through? I think you have.
Several times.
Yeah, cool.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm glad we agree.
Larry, how about you? What was your favorite album of the year?
I would say my favorite is The Passionate Ones from Nourished by Time out of Baltimore. Really beautiful, emotional, kind of stirring, inspiring, just cool ass record. And I already liked Nourished by Time a lot. And then I saw Nourished by Time earlier this year at Barboza here in Seattle. And it was a sold-out show. Resellers were selling tickets for like $1,000.
Oh. At Numos, you said?
No, it was at Barboza.
Oh, at Barboza? The smaller venue. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Wow.
And the folks, the youngins, the kids, they were singing along like so passionately. And I hadn't really seen anything like that for a minute. And it was an amazing performance. So that elevated my appreciation of that album and that artist even more. And I already was standing hard.
Speaking of 9 to 5.
So before we get to this list, I also want to just shout out my favorite album of the year was Bon Iver's Sable Fable.
Been a long while now coming up. Thought we were past it, thought we patched it up. But the title had past hands. Thought we had enough.
I say that because I was a huge fan of when he first started putting out albums like For Emma forever ago, but then his albums started to get a little more weird and like experimental, and so I was really scared to listen to this record because I wanted it to be all that I hoped and dreamed it would be, so I didn't listen to it for a second, but it dropped the week that my son was born this year, and then on the way to the hospital, I was like, let's just listen to it, and it was like everything that I hoped and dreamed of. It was like the relaxing vibe that I got from like his first record, but like also the grown-up version with like more production, and because that was like such a big moment of my year, that album is just like stuck with me. Okay, so let's talk about, these are the top played albums on KEXP based on all of the airplay all year long. We're going to talk about the top 5. So first off, coming in at number 5 was the Baltimore hardcore band Turnstile with the album Never Enough. Evie, I understand that this was your favorite album of the year. Tell me why.
Well, I think it is a masterpiece. Every single song is so good. And I'm not a musician, so I can just speak like from a listener's and a DJ's perspective that I feel like it flows so well from start to finish. You can hear a lot of the intros and outros are really well done. The album blends perfectly. The production is really good. They put out a visual album to accompany it and did these really cool free live performances around different towns. So they had a really cool album rollout. They did a visual aspect to the album, which I thought was really cool to watch. You know, they've gone from their hardcore roots into bringing in more of a pop sound, and it's worked really well for me. I just think it's a perfect record. And the other day, I had our friends from Deep Sea Diver on the show with me, and they, when we were talking about this record on air, they're like, you know, really listening to this is kind of like a grown-up version of 311.
Yes.
And I hadn't thought of that until today. And you know what? I embrace that.
Listeners have been telling me that for some time. I was going to say that, like, it's so 311 coded. It's made me revise my teenage opinion of 311. Because I'm like, here I am, middle-aged, listening to modern day 311.
Yeah.
And it rips. I really do think they pulled off a feat with this record. They really brought, like, the world to hardcore. And it has to be like the big. It would be really reductive and off the mark to call them like they're the Nirvana of hardcore or whatever. But they're representing the biggest crossover moment hardcore has ever seen, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who really resent it. But I think it's incredible. It's plugged me into that energy in a way that I haven't been in a long, long time, and just some thrilling, fun, thoughtful, hard-hitting music that everybody can get into.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I feel like are saying like, oh, this is a hardcore band that made it to the mainstream, which you don't see often. But like, they're also nominated for 5 Grammys this year, which is like, okay, all right.
Good for them.
We've been talking about Turnstile. Their album Never Enough was the 5th most played album on KEXP this year. I'm talking with KEXP DJs Evie Stokes and Larry Mizell Jr. about the top played albums on KEXP this year. And coming in at number 4, the 4th most played album on the station was Say She She with their album Cut and Rewind. So I got a chance to interview this New York trio this year, and they are so lovely. I love their backstory that like 2 of the members met because they shared a wall in a New York apartment building, and they could hear each other like singing across the wall, and then they met, and then they started making music together. I love it.
That's adorable.
Yeah, Evie, I hear that this is also one of your favorite albums of the year.
It is. Yeah, this is also on my favorite 10 albums of the year.
What do you love about it? I know that I love their harmonies. Like I grew up, you know, like in choir and was a vocalist and went to school to study voice and everything. And their harmonies are so tight. They're just like, they sound like just one cohesive voice. I'm so impressed with that. And also just like their throwback sound too, you know? What were some of the things that really struck you about Say She She?
I would say the harmonies as well. I love that the way that their take on disco in the year 2025, and these songs, you know, a lot of what we're hearing or seeing in the top played albums of the year are from artists that were placed in heavy rotation by our music directors, right? For being like the best of the best. These are the best records that are coming out right now. And as Say She released the singles leading up to this album, every one of them, I'm like, well, that's another perfect song. They've made another perfect song again. They're all jams. They're like perfectly written. And they sound really good next to the old bangers. Like there's a song on here, I can't remember what song it is. It sounds so good next to Rick James. Like they just flow so well together. So I love the way that their take on disco in 2025. I also have to say that I went to go see them perform last time that they were in Seattle. It was at Neumos. The show was completely packed. like not a place to breathe, the entire place. It was my 40th birthday, so we got a little table from the venue. They set it up so we could watch right from the balcony, and the energy in that crowd, everybody was so excited to be there. Their performance is so much fun. Like they just work so well together. They're so in sync as a band. So just seeing their live performance and knowing that they really they have the talent. And what you hear on the record is what you're hearing in real life in their performance too. So I love this album. It's another one that I think is really fun. It makes me really happy. And every song just hits.
I love them. Their harmonies, of course, is like job number one with them. How they blend. It's a remarkable thing. And it's organic and real. It's not a studio creation. How they are in sync and locked in a live setting is a wonderful thing to behold. And they're just lovely people. I know that's not what we're talking about, but that always influences me.
Me too.
If I get a chance to meet an artist, and we get to do that every now and then.
Yeah. You got to host them, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And they're just a delight. And this album might be even their best album. I'm really, really, really grateful that they came into the landscape. I think they've brought a wonderful energy and are representing that kind of sound and time period that they're referencing with their stuff. They're doing it so well, and that's like my heart, where they reside. So like it really makes me happy. I'm such a stan for Say She She.
Yeah, I love them too. And you know, when I interview a band, I usually try to figure out like what's some interesting backstory that they're telling in their record. And there's a track on here, you know, Evie, you mentioned, you know, their throwback sound to like disco, and they've got a track on this record called Disco Life.
Never had a disco life. Never had a disco life.
And it's about I didn't know about this event. It's the 1979 Disco Demolition Night in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Iconic.
Yeah, so I didn't realize. So for those that may not know, so this is like where baseball fans were like asked to bring a disco record to like a Chicago White Sox game, and in exchange they would pay like, I don't know, a few cents, you know, for their ticket to the game. And then this local DJ was going to take all these disco records and then like burn them in a dumpster fire as part of like the game. So I didn't know about that, but this was like their response of like, it wasn't just like disco records. It was also just like, it just felt like it was super racist, you know, like this is like a genre that came from like queer folks and people of color, and like, why burn them in this public display? And so this was like their response to like learning about this event, you know, like decades later, which I thought was super interesting. And it was a piece of history that they kind of realized while they were making this record, and then made a whole song about it. But also like the song sounds great, you know, their sound sounds great. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. That night, and the kind of repudiation of Black, POC, queer musical innovation that it represents, I think is a cultural touchstone that applies in American culture of the moment, big time. And it's a thing that I feel like we probably encounter as DJs when we're not just playing white boys with guitars all the time. You might hear from a listener every now and then is like, what is this? Can you just play real music?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times you don't want to get into it with that person, but I hear the echoes of the disco demolition urge that is out there when stuff like that happens. And it's diametrically opposed to everything I stand for. So I love that Say She put a light on that event thematically on that song, on that brilliant album.
And just a side note, as a DJ, can you ever imagine inviting thousands of people to just come and destroy records?
A
in
radio
public event?
DJ
It's
started a
insane.
riot of hatred against the music. Like that's nuts.
What a thing to be known by for the rest of
sure.
history.
For sure.
Anyway, that's
Well-
a jam. That song's great.
Yeah, let's play it. Let's play it. All right. So this is Say She. This is the song Disco Life off of their album Cut and Rewind, which was the 4th most played album on KEXP in 2025.
Taking back the major league. Playing field where all are free. Break the ground, burning bright. 4 more steps into the light.
All right, so the third most played album on KEXP this year was Seattle's own Deep Sea Diver with Billboard Heart.
Blue sky, reach down, swallow me.
Evie, did you interview Jessica Dobson when this album came out?
I did, yeah. So she came on Drive Time to premiere a single from this new record, Billboard Heart. She came with her husband, Peter, who's also in the band, and Elliot, three of the members. And they came to premiere this song, Shovel. And they said, when we were talking about it before we played the song, she said this was sort of her homage to Mariah Carey, who she loves. Shovel is a killer song. I think that and What Do I Know are a couple of my highlights off the record. And you know who really loves the song What Do I Know is my daughter, Olive, who's going to be 6 in 2 weeks. And I just love Deep Sea Diver. They're just such lovely people. They support so much about what KEXP is doing and are such a huge part of our mission here, and our local hometown heroes, just really good people that make good music. I have heard several times when I play Deep Sea Diver on air, people really love to hear them on the airwaves. They've said, like, Jessica Dobson is my guitar hero. Like, she's just so talented, a really talented songwriter, and so fun to see perform.
I mean, she used to play with the Shins and was like a touring member of Beck's band, like guitar, and then now she's doing, kind of leading Deep Sea Diver. And she's just so smart and savvy and such a hard worker. I mean, this is the first release that they've done on Sub Pop, but before then they were fiercely independent. Like, I've interviewed them quite a few times about just how they've created this huge following around them. Like, during the pandemic, they do these really elaborate videos, streaming on Instagram, but like, it wasn't just like, I'm going to play a song. It's like, here, we're going to answer your questions in this fort that we built, this week. And then next week, we're going to build this other crazy fort. And then, hey, let me have Peter throw down a little something on the drums, and then let's use that beat. And then you submit your songs next week, and then we're going to play them for everyone, And so they like just created this big community. Or, hey, we're thinking about writing this song. Here's let's give you the track, and then we want you to lip sync it back. And then that ended up being like their music videos, like all these clips from their fans, like lip syncing to this song. Like, they just do so much like audience engagement, which sounds like such a like marketing word, but like it all seems like so genuine. And so I'm just so happy for them to just like keep rising. They were like, on tour with like Death Cab for Cutie and Pearl Jam, they're like really getting after it, but they've earned it all,
Yeah, I think it's interesting, some of the stuff, Emily, you were saying about their kind of really instinctive, organic engagement with their audience and their community. I think we have a phrase for that. They understand the assignment. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like a canny marketing thing. They just knew that people needed some real humanity, and that's what moves the needle, and that's what they deal in. And they made a brilliant album. Lovely people, again, truly, and really at a high point. And yeah, nobody can take anything away from Deep Sea Diver. Really, really earned the momentum and spotlight that they've got right now. And they are really interesting to me as like hometown heroes that are like actually really respected outside of Seattle too, which is not a thing you always see. But people really like Deep Sea Diver is dope. This album is dope. People from all over the country who I know that aren't necessarily KEXP listeners, but lovers of music have been like, what's going on with Deep Sea Diver? That record's so dope. And I'm like, right on. That's nice to hear.
It is nice to hear.
So we've been talking about the third most played album on KEXP in 2025. It's Deep Sea Diver with Billboard Heart. I'm talking with KEXP DJs Evie Stokes and Larry Mizell Jr. about the top most played albums on KEXP in 2025. And coming in at number 2, the second most played album of 2025 was Wet Leg with their album Moisturizer. So Larry, I know Wet Leg doesn't do as many interviews anymore, but Larry, you interviewed them early on, yeah, when their album first came out, or even when they just had a few singles. I'm curious what you think about this latest record.
I think it's dope. I like how you hear maybe a little more grit and weariness in them, and it's not as I feel like people really gravitated towards their first couple singles that were really funny and everything, and they're still a lot of fun.
Is your mother worried? Would you like us to assign someone to worry your mother? Excuse me. What? Excuse me. What?
But I like where they've gotten to on this record, and it makes me have faith that they're going to stick around, and I love that. It's a thing that you might worry about when you see a band really kind of skyrocket off of a one song. Mm-hmm. And I think they've really done something cool with this record. The writing has improved, I think. They're still really witty. There's a song on there called Man Get Out.
Mange 2.
Yeah. And, that double entendre, I guess, of it. And maybe it's also like a diss track at somebody. I love all of that. It's really sharp and just barbed and fun and just a jam. Yeah, I feel like they're musically, they've really gelled. And knowing that they just came together based on that first interview from just like a drunken ride on a Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
I love that. That's such a cool arc.
You think I'm pretty? You think I'm pretty cool? You wanna be? I know most people do. You take this packet, you read it, it says March 2. I give you magic beans, I hope you're gonna get out soon. I really hope you're gonna get out soon.
People are always talking to me about music wherever I go.
Yeah.
Meeting new people figure out who I am or what I do, and they want to talk about music and know what my favorites are and make recommendations to me. I so often have people say, "You heard of Wet Leg? Have you heard that Wet Leg record?" I'm like, "I have,"
Yeah.
and I actually have. Yeah. So I hear about them all the time. People are always talking about them.
It's funny you say that because my husband, literally 2 weeks ago, was like, "Have you heard of Wet Leg?" I was like, "Yes, I have. Of course I have." And he's like,
I should put that on a shirt.
"Yeah, have you heard of Wet Leg?" But then he goes, "Wet Leg is literally when I hear their sound, I think this sounds exactly like if you were to tell me what does KEXP sound like, it sounds like Wet Leg."
He's not wrong.
I should put that on a t-shirt too.
Hello, 999, what's your emergency? Well, the thing is, I'm in love.
Okay, so Wet Leg album's Moisturizer was the second most played song on KEXP in 2025, and now the most played song on the station in 2025 here on KEXP is Tunde Adebimpe, the frontman of TV on the Radio, with his debut solo album, The Black Boltz.
Yeah, I heard it too. And it was wild as the moon.
Larry, what did you think of this album?
I thought it was great. I mean, I'm a TV on the Radio fan day one. I remember seeing them in Europe at the Roskilde 20 years ago and getting my wig peeled back, and I just loved them forever. And Tunde is really just erudite and witty and dope, and I feel like you really gotten his solo bag on this record, and it feels differentiated from TV on the Radio. And I love the kind of loose sci-fi, kind of almost superhero-y concept that's running through this record. And I've heard him in an interview he did with Cheryl when he came and did his live session. He kind of spoke to his love of these things in a way that really resonated with me as a comics nerd who loves indie music. There's so many cool references on there, whether it's Slang Tang, the like OG dance hall rhythm on one of the songs. I forget the name. And there's another one on the song Pin Stack. He does a riff kind of on the song Swing on a Star, like the like Sinatra standard. I think it's Sinatra. That shouldn't quite work, but it's awesome.
Would you like to live in a dream and be better off than you seem? Well, baby, it's showtime. You better button up your vest.
And it made me so happy because kind of within like a sort of weirdo sci-fi framework, I felt like he was making a reference to a very strange and bad Canadian obscure TV show called Out of This World from the 80s about a young girl whose name was Evie, who was half alien and she could stop time.
That sounds familiar.
And that was the theme song, was Swing on a Star.
Would you like to swing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar.
So I kind of was like, are you making a reference to Out of This World, Tunde Adebimpe?
This is your official ask.
This is my official ask, and I hope it gets through.
Yeah.
I hope somebody at Sub Pop, some of his team, or Tunde himself, hears this and wants to respond. You have 24 hours.
I love it. Well, I was reading just the PR around this album and the backstory kind of let me just read it. So this album was also written, a lot of it during the pandemic. And so the PR around this album reads that this album is, quote, his response to the macro unease of a post-pandemic world careening towards violent authoritarianism and the personal grief that has come from the loss in recent years, specifically the sudden passing of his younger sister while making this album. The Black Boltz is Tunde's desperate grasping of small moments of joy amidst the dissonance and sadness any way he can. Making this album, he says, was his way of processing everything. It was my way of building a rock or a platform for myself in the middle of this fucking ocean. So, I mean, I just thought that was interesting, but also just like beautiful, creating beauty and joy, out of some not so great moments.
Absolutely. And I feel like this record, he gets to almost a place that it felt, compared to a lot of TV on the radio, which feels like really world weary and weighed down, there's almost like a certain childlike simplicity on this record. And maybe I'm ascribing stuff to him and this album that he wouldn't agree with, but it just felt like it was coming from a really hopeful and pure place. Not to say TV on the radio is not pure. They're purely one of the best bands of all time. And that really comes through on like that track dedicated to his sister, I Love You, ILY, on there. That's a beautiful tribute.
I love you with a heart that's pure and true.
I found this record really moving. I was into the singles as they dropped, particularly Magnetic, but when I heard it all as an album, it like really clicked into place for me. And I think it's well deserving of all the accolades and all the plays it's gotten here at KEXP.
I've been speaking with KEXP DJs Evie Stokes and Larry Mizell Jr. about the top played albums on KEXP in 2025. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having
you.
us. That was fun.
I was thinking about my time in space. I was thinking about the human race in the age of tenderness and rage. Had me kicking through the end of days. From inside I heard a message cry, shining like mirrors in the sky. So get your head right and hold it high. Say look around now, baby, you know you got the touch because you're magnetic. Don't synthesizer. You've been down, but you're gonna get higher. I know the skill is doing loose in the fire. What they gonna do is a lightning rider. Magnetic. in space.
And that was A Deeper Listen. Before you go, please rate this podcast and review it. Those little things go a long way. Most of all, Happy New Year, and thanks for taking a deeper listen.